Have you ever thought about how we know the things we know? From the phone in your hand to the medicines that keep us healthy? It's all built on one powerful idea: research. But what does that word even mean? Well, today we're going to explore the blueprint for discovery.
We all do it, right? We have hunches, opinions, gut feelings. But there's a huge leap between I think this is true and I know this is true. So how do we make that jump? The answer is a structured, powerful process designed to separate fact from fiction. Let's dive in and see how it works.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down what research actually is. Then we'll open up the researcher's toolkit to see the different methods they use. After that, we'll walk through the step-by-step blueprint for a project. And finally, we'll talk about why getting this right matters so much. All right, first things first, what is research, really? We use that word all the time, but it's way more than just a quick online search for an answer. It's a formal process, and it has its own set of rules.
Okay, this definition looks a little academic, but look at the keywords here: systematic, objective, and logical. Systematic means it follows a clear plan, not just random searching. Objective means you try to leave your personal biases at the door. And logical means it's all based on sound reasoning. These aren't just suggestions, they are the absolute pillars that make a discovery credible.
And here's the most important thing to get. Research isn't just about aimlessly collecting a pile of facts. It's a focused, targeted investigation. You always have a clear goal, whether that's solving a very practical problem or maybe discovering something completely new about how the universe works. It's always an inquiry with a purpose.
This quote from Redman and Mori just nails it. A systematized effort. In other words, it's organized, it's deliberate, and it's designed specifically to generate knowledge that we just didn't have before. Simple as that.
Okay, so if research is this systematized effort, what do those systems actually look like? Well, this brings us to what I like to call the researcher's toolkit. Just think of these different research methods as specialized tools, where each one is designed for a very specific kind of job. For starters, you've got descriptive research. This tool just paints the picture. It tells you what is, like a national census or a report on market trends. But then you have analytical research, which takes that picture and asks why or how. It's the tool for digging into cause and effect. Next up, applied versus fundamental research. Applied research is all about tackling immediate, practical problems. Think developing a new drug to fight a disease. On the other hand, fundamental research is about pure discovery, expanding what we know just for the sake of knowing it, like creating new theories in physics. One solves today's problems, the other builds the very foundation for tomorrow's solutions.
And finally, we have a classic pair: quantitative versus qualitative. Quantitative is all about the numbers. It's about measurements, statistics, things you can count. It answers how many or how much. Qualitative, though, is about the human experience. It explores meanings, feelings, and context through things like interviews or case studies to help us understand the why behind the numbers.
So, we've got our toolkit. Now how do we actually build something with it? That brings us to the blueprint, the step-by-step process that guides a research project all the way from a simple idea to a really meaningful conclusion. The first phase is all about planning. You can't just dive in. You start by defining a really clear problem and stating your goals. Then comes the literature review, and this is basically your homework. You have to see what's already known about the topic and, more importantly, where the gaps are. This is what lets you ask sharp, focused questions that will guide your entire project. If you get this stage right, you've set yourself up for success. Phase 2 is where the action happens. This is where you design your study, you go out and collect the data, and then the real magic begins, the analysis. You sift through everything you've gathered to find the answers to your questions. Finally, you draw your conclusions and, this is crucial, you explain what it all means. What are the implications for the real world? So, we have the tools, we have the blueprint, but why does following it all so carefully matter so much? Because honestly, the difference between good and bad research is the difference between a genuine insight and a really critical error. These are the hallmarks of research you can actually trust. It has to be systematic, logical, and based on real, observable data. It also has to be objective, so free from bias, and replicable, meaning another researcher could follow your steps and get a similar result. And underpinning absolutely everything, it has to be ethical. And yeah, this says it all. If a study is missing these traits, if it's biased, if the methods are sloppy, if the results can't be repeated, then its conclusions are built on a foundation of sand. It's like building a house on shaky ground. The study's credibility is just gone, and it can lead to some really bad decisions. Because when it's done right, the impact is immense. Good research is what generates new knowledge, it's what improves the systems we all rely on, and it gives leaders the evidence they need to make smart decisions. It solves real-world problems, and it is, without a doubt, the fundamental driver of progress in science and society. When you boil it all down, it comes to this. Research is the engine we've built to take our natural human curiosity and transform it into tangible, real-world progress that benefits every single one of us. So there you have it, the blueprint for discovery. It's a powerful framework for turning uncertainty into real understanding. And that just leaves us with one final thought. Now that you know the blueprint, what's a question you would want to answer?